Hi, my name's Joey. I'm an organizer here at WPA, and today we're going to talk about grievances. So, what is a grievance? A grievance is an allegation by either an employee or a group of employees that there has been a violation, misapplication, or misinterpretation of our collective bargaining agreement. Sometimes we call it a CBA or a union contract. So while each contract is slightly different in how they handle this grievance process, there are numerous concepts which are covered in all of our contracts. And by that idea, the grievance process is generally broken into 4 steps. Step 1 must be filed within 30 days of the occurrence that led to the grievance, or within 30 days of when the grievant knew or should have known about the issue. And that second point is really important because the grievance can be filed long after the occurrence if the grievant was unaware of the issue. Now, after step 1, the subsequent steps then have 14 to 15 calendar day deadlines for each task that swaps between the union and the employer as they go through the rest of the process. To initiate the grievance process, you'll need to reach out to your staff representative or your steward team to let them know about the violation if they were not already aware. Before your stewards or staff rep files with your employer, the grievance must also be approved by both the staff representative and the union president. Step 1 of the grievance process starts with just a meeting between the grievant and either an HR representative or their immediate supervisor. If it is not resolved at step 1, it moves to step 2. Step 2 is a meeting with the agency head. It's often the president of the institution or the commissioner of the department or someone that they designate. If it is still unresolved at step 2, the union can move it to step 3, where it goes to mediation through the Public Employment Relations Commission, a third-party mediator. If that mediation is unsuccessful at step 3, the final 4th step is binding arbitration, and this is where an impartial third-party arbitrator will hear the case and issue a final and legally binding decision. Arbitration is a really critical part of this process because the arbitrator's ruling cannot be appealed, and it also becomes precedent setting, which means that it could potentially impact other bargaining units and the broader landscape in general, the broader labor landscape, I should say. So, overview, step 1, HR rep or supervisor. Step 2, agency head, president, commissioner, someone they designate. Step 3 is mediation through the Public Employee Relations Commission, or PERC, as we call it. And step 4 is binding arbitration. Now you should know, arbitration always carries a monetary cost with it. You have to pay for the arbitrator, you have to pay for the recorder, and you have to pay some other fees for it to all happen. And as such, this is a key reason why the union president approves grievances. As we spoke about in a previous training on our executive cabinet, only the union president can disperse member funds, including funds to pay for arbitration fees. So let's talk about some best practices when handling grievances. Now, it's essential to meet all the contractual deadlines and make sure that your staff rep and your stewards are updated if any new information is obtained or if anything changes. And prior to filing that initial grievance, the union and the related members have to gather all the facts, documents, witness statements, and everything to fully understand the issue and the interests of both parties prior to filing. And that process can be really daunting, but luckily it's made a little bit easier if you have a larger team. And that's exactly why we have volunteer roles like member leaders, in addition to stewards and your full-time staff rep, because they can all contribute together in this information gathering process. So record keeping of meetings, decisions, and the overall timeline are going to be crucial if the grievance continues to advance through the steps. We often recommend that you request an emailed copy of all verbal communications linked to this issue. Even if you're not sent a record of what is said even after you request it, you can still write that email yourself and ask for confirmation. Send it to the person you had that verbal conversation with. There's, like I usually say, there's really no such thing as too much documentation. There's really only disorganized documentation. So if you anticipate that you're going to have a large amount of documentation, work with your team to make sure that everyone stays organized so the info is more usable when you're in your step meetings. Even at step 1, you always want to foster an environment of open communication and problem solving. Try to avoid being overly adversarial or using accusatory language when possible. Remember, when you are gathering facts in the beginning of this process, you're also trying to understand the interests of both parties. The interests of the employees are pretty easy because it's your interests, it's your coworkers' interests, it's the things that you talk about every day. That part's easy. But what is the employer interested in gaining through this action? And how can they still gain that benefit without violating your contract? And finally, let's talk about ways that we can prevent grievances in the first place. So, effective communication and a strong labor management relationship are key. By proactively addressing issues, promoting open dialogue, and collaborating to resolve problems, we can foster a workplace culture that minimizes the need for formal grievances. In this ideal situation, when there are changes to working conditions, a mandatory subject notice is sent to the union, the affected workers and their rep meet with the employer to minimize negative impacts, and for changes that occur regularly, both the workers and the employer meet every 2 years to renegotiate the terms of the CBA to address these topics to further save time on repetitive processes. Now, the WPA is creating a growing library of ongoing training and education, both for use by bargaining unit employees and by administrators. So we want to make sure that everyone understands our collective bargaining agreement and how to properly handle workplace disputes. Our staff reps and stewards are always available to provide guidance and to assist in identifying and resolving issues before they escalate to the grievance stage. So please never hesitate to reach out if you think there's a problem. And if you need to find your staff representative, you can do that at wpea.org/contact us. And if you need to find your steward team or contact your stewards, you can do that by going to wpea.org/units. As always, my name is Joey. I'm an organizer here at WPEA. If ever you have an idea of a training that you'd like me to create, feel free to send me an email at joey@wpea.org. And I want to thank everyone for hanging out today. And I hope to see you in the future. Have a great day. Bye.